We're learning Sfas Emes. He says right from the last days of Pesach. Again, he writes that he does not remember exactly, and maybe some things are added. Dabel b'nei Yisrael v'yeshuvu. We find when Klal Yisrael was told to go back and encamp in front of the sea, they had to go back. So, why did Hakadosh Baruch Hu have to tell them to go back at all? And it would seem, he says, because to Mitzrayim, it was not to their own schus. Only the Hakadosh Baruch Hu promised always to take them out. So Hakadosh Baruch Hu wanted them to go back, and they'll have a second geula mitzad schusam. As he mentions elsewhere, that Veitzaku in Mitzrayim was to be freed out of the tzoros, and the Yitzaku at the Yamsuf was recognizing that the connection to Hashem, that they wanted to be Jewish, and that's what it says. She'ama b'kiyas Yamsuf shoyinasuna badin. At Kriyas Yamsuf they were in judgment. That their desire was to be not only redeemed out of Zchus Avos, but they themselves should be worthy of having attachment to Hashem. And they were Zochu, they were merited having that as well. Why? Because they believed and they returned. People who are fleeing slavery would not return. They didn't come back to attack the Mitzrayim either. And it says, Nifloisecho machshavoisecho eleinu. It says in the Pasuk that your wonders and your thoughts are with us. So certainly, without the fact of Yetzias Mitzrayim, we would not have been able to ourselves have merited achieving this level. HaKadosh Baruch Hu caused that after they saw the Nisim in Mitzrayim, they could strengthen themselves with their Amunah. That's why it says only by the Yamsuf it says Vayimin Hashem Moshe Avdo. After all the Azeres Makis, Esa Makis, they saw the 10 Makis. They only merited Albidin by the Yamsuf. And that's why perhaps we can add also, it says, tell them to ask from their neighbors. So the Shalayagidu Oisi Zokin, that Avram Avinu shouldn't say that they took him out, but he didn't give them a Shuch Godor. So, in a sense, the question is, but afterwards they got the Yamsuf, they got all the Rechush, they got all the wealth, the spoils of the Yamsuf, which was much, much greater than Mitzrayim. But the idea is that they were taken out in the schus of Avram. And since they were taken out in the schus of Avram, therefore they had to get the spoils in the schus of Avram. And that spoils was even though they didn't merit it. But afterwards they got the spoils of Yamsuf, because that's what HaKadosh Baruch Hu said. Afterwards they will go out, they, not in the schus of the Avos, according to the Sfas Emes, but rather in their own merit. That's why it says Vayiru mi'oid. They were very fearful. What does it mean? HaKadosh Baruch Hu said that they go back so that they'll see the destruction of the Chel Paroi. What was there to be fearful? And but according to this, they were fearful of their own merit. And certainly when Moshe Rabbeinu was crying out to Hashem, why was he crying? Why was he praying? But that you need to be strengthen our own merit, and therefore they should see, even though they saw Mitzrayim Kol Anisim, and they certainly believed in Hashem Yisborach, they could save them in a moment, but they were afraid they won't have a nes that would be because of their own koyach, and they felt they had no merit, they had no worthiness of being redeemed. That's what it could be. This is the Pirish, what it says, that they told Moshe Rabbeinu, Chadal Mimenu, leave us alone. We know it wasn't that they were saying, let's go back to Egypt. They were saying, if we're going to have to go through court, through Bezdin of Shamalo, the heavenly court, if immediately Mitzrayim the Gula through their own merit, then it would be better. Let's go back to Mitzrayim and have a Yetzias Mitzrayim on our own merit, because HaKadosh Baruch Hu promised the others to take it out, and that promise helped them. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted that it should be in their own schus. So the achona, the preparation, was, as the Sfas Emes says, first they left Mitzrayim in the merit of the others, and then they merited at the Yam Suf on their own merit. We can add that that's also the idea of the 3 days that Moshe Rabbeinu says. They went out for 3 days because as far as leaving Mitzrayim the first time, it was one Yitzhiyah and this was Avos, which was only for 3 days. When they went back, they were returning towards Mitzrayim. But the second Yitzhiyah, the second salvation at Vayosh Hashem, the HaKadosh Baruch Hu saved them at Yam Suf, that was in their own merit. And that, as Sfas Emes says, is the difference between Yetzias Mitzrayim and Kriyas Yam Suf. Because Yetzias Mitzrayim, they went out from difficulties, but the oppressor remained. Kriyas Yam Suf, they no longer had the oppressor, because Yetzias Mitzrayim was only in Chesed Hashem because He promised their overs, and they couldn't push away the oppressor only because when is the oppressor pushed away? In other words, in times we're saved from ourselves because of the merit of our forefathers. But if we want our own merit, that we shouldn't be any oppressors, we have to use Zeicha like in Kriyas Yam Suf to a nest that's because of our righteousness. And thereby there'll be a nest in the actual destruction of the oppressor. And we can say that that's a pshat. That when we say Dayenu, if HaKadosh Baruch Hu would have split for us the ocean, but He would not have taken us through in dry land, because HaKadosh Baruch Hu did a nes through Yisrael. He did a nes through Yisrael. That's what it says, Hevironu, that He took us through the nes. There was Yabosha, meaning it changed totally. It was not the mud that there should be there, but it changed the whole circumstance. There was no longer a difficulty. Everything was smooth. Everything was paved. Everything was ready. And therefore it says, that this is how we can understand. If HaKadosh Baruch Hu said He was going to split the sea, why did He have to wait till it went up to their nostrils before it split? Because it was to show that it's your schus. If you'll show that you are worthy of it, that you are willing to accept it because you believe in Hashem, then it's split. And that's only by going in to the point of nearly drowning until their nostrils. That's why it says, we say in Hallel, Yehuda achieved holiness, and Yisrael achieved commonwealth or kingdom. That in their strength, the Yam was opened in their schus, and that's we praise HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It was only through Yehuda Lekodshoin. Yehuda was sanctified because Yisrael was elevated to a commonwealth. I think that's the way he's translating it. Why he brings in Yehuda Lekodshoin, Yisrael Mam Shloisa, meaning if Yisrael were worthy of having kingdom, then Yehuda is sanctified to the point where he is king, because really it should say Yehuda Sholo and Yisrael Kedusha. But by being worthy of being saved as a Klal Yisrael, then you have a king. And furthermore, we can say, we explain this, the Medrash Shalirotza Likora, because it was through Moshe Rabbeinu. And the Medrash says it didn't want to split, because actually the splitting with spreading out his hands is because of Moshe Rabbeinu. And Yam wanted to have the split happen because of Klal Yisrael. But Moshe Rabbeinu is Klal Yisrael because he represents, in other words, within Moshe Rabbeinu was incorporated Klal Yisrael. And therefore, HaKadosh Baruch Hu told him, spread out your hand. It won't be your schus, it will be Klal Yisrael's schus. And that's what we have to hope for, that we will merit in our schus of having Mashiach Tzidkenu come. We'll continue the next shiur in the future.